This video is powered by, as always, entertainment. If you enjoyed this content, consider becoming a patron over on patreon.com/asalways for access to the Patreon exclusive podcast, The Kill Connor Clubhouse, early access to the Cinema Room podcast, being part of polls for future videos, and other early access material. With that said, please enjoy the video. It's been 10 years since 2009, one of the years I consider as a golden age of gaming. There have been so many great games released over the past couple of years that I was playing, not to mention the releases that year itself: Assassin's Creed 2, Batman Arkham Asylum, Modern Warfare 2, Uncharted 2, X-Men Origins Wolverine, Left 4 Dead 2, hell, even Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Low-key, that's a fucking classic and you know it. But that Christmas, my 12-year-old self received a game that I don't even know if I asked for. I don't know if my parents saw it and thought, oh, maybe James will like that. I don't know what led me to owning this game, but I'm so glad that I did. And that game is the Saboteur. The Saboteur is often referred to as Pandemic Studios' swan song. At least, that's what Wikipedia tells me. The reason for this is because Pandemic shut down in November of 2009, before the Saboteur even launched. The reason for this being EA have a thing for dissolving development studios for no solid reason, and it was sad to see them go. They made a lot of strong and well-known titles like the original Battlefront games, Destroy All Humans, and the Mercenaries franchise. Not to mention a favourite of mine, Lord of the Rings Conquest. I'd normally spend more of the video talking about the development of this game, like I do in all my retrospectives, but there's not really much to tell. Nothing of note that would interest anybody. Even the Wikipedia page has nothing. So I guess it was just a normal development process, and one that didn't get a lot of press either, which is kind of sad. But back to it, there is something to me about the Saboteur that separates it from the rest, and I've come to notice over the last few years that not many people have played this game. I was shocked to find out I was actually one of the few people who've played it. It seems it sort of went under the radar a bit, unnoticed by the mainstream despite being one of my all-time favourite games. That might seem like a bold claim, and that I'm purely speaking from nostalgia perhaps, and I thought maybe I was too, especially considering nobody knows about this game, so I had to replay it. The Saboteur came out in 2009, and looking at this game again, I wanted to see how it had aged in terms of gameplay, visuals, narrative, all those aspects, but also to compare it against similar games that dropped at that time, a main one being Assassin's Creed 2, since they're very similar in design, both action open world titles. Also, it's worth noting that before making this video, I'd only played through the whole thing once, and that was when I got it that Christmas in 2009, so a lot of this was fresh to me, and that made it perfect. Now, I played this thing on PC purely because I wasn't going to play this shit in 720p, I'd rather kill myself. Okay, that was over the top. But I couldn't do it, and it's not backwards compatible on Xbox One either, so I had to go through Origin. Simple. No, it wasn't simple. First off, I prefer playing with controller, especially on third-person games, so I plugged in my controller and... Okay, what's this then? Why is this happening? What do I even Google to fix this? Saboteur... controller spazzing out problem? Oh, this is actually kind of useful. So I had to go into the game directory, find the input templates.txt file, and find these specific inputs and change them, so that when I go into the game, the controller doesn't spaz out on the menus or rotate like a madman when I'm accelerating in my car. I don't even know why this is a thing that can happen. This is probably why I don't play things on PC. Things happen, and there's no rhyme or reason for the existence of the problem. Anyway, I'd finally gotten into the game, and it was running wonderfully, and then I opened the map. Why is the map built like this? Essentially, there's a backdrop, which is the map, and there's an overlay, which is the icons, the markers, and the zones. And if you play the game higher than 720p, which I was doing, they don't line up. Not even close. So it made placing markers down exceedingly difficult. I had to come up with this system where I place a marker, I check the overlay, then I replace the marker, and then I check the overlay again until it was in the right place. Not the end of the world, but annoying nonetheless, so if you do play this on PC, either be prepared or play at 720p. I swear I love this game. I'd finally gotten the game to work, and So let's set the stage. The Saboteur takes place during the 1940s, during the German occupation of Paris. The open world is Paris and the surrounding countryside, as well as a small part of Germany itself. It's a large space, but not too large. It works so well as an open world, and each area feels distinctly different, and I love that. You play as Sean Devlin, an Irish mechanic and sometimes race car driver. The story opens with you in La Belle, which acts as a hideout for the resistance in Paris. It also happens to be Sean's home, somewhere he can lay low whilst the Nazis are snooping around Paris. It's also basically a strip club type thing. It's more classy, I guess. There was also a DLC that adds nudity, so you can see nudity. It's actually pretty good. Like, I mean, the modeling of the characters, like, it doesn't look bad considering it came out in 2009. Obviously, I can't show you, but trust me, it's, you know... Anyway, after talking to a man named Luke, who is the head of the resistance in this particular district, and taking out a Nazi outpost, the game displays one of its major features, and something for me that tears it apart from other open world games, is the way it handles the Nazi occupation and Sean's interaction with it. After destroying major Nazi outposts, you'll notice a shift in the Nazis' occupation of that area. Along with that, it displays it in the most beautiful way. Areas that are under high Nazi control will be black and white, with the only colours being red of the Nazi logos, some cars, explosions in orange and yellow, and sometimes blue if Skylar's around with her scarf, but we'll talk about Skylar later. When destroying large Nazi outposts or killing major Nazi targets, the world will give you this explosion of colour from the epicenter of the act that Sean is performing. If it's an explosion, then it comes from there. If it's killing a Nazi official, then it'll emanate from there, and you'll see the colours flood the world, and it's so satisfying to see your actions have such a large impact on how the game looks. Not to mention, the way the world feels is totally different depending on the color. When we have color, the world looks gorgeous, expansive. It's Paris, for fuck's sake. It looks amazing. But when we're in black and white, you feel genuinely oppressed. It's dark. The only lights are that of the Nazis or explosions and the lights from the windows. And so everything feels so trapped, I guess is the right word. And I love that. It's one of the most unique features in this game, and it just perfectly conveys the sense of resistance versus the Nazis in this period in a very artistic and fun way. Moving on, we get to see a flashback sequence. What led Sean to being in Paris and having such a vendetta against the Nazis? Other than, obviously, them being Nazis, which is no good, but it seems more personal to Sean. This part of the game acts as the prologue, as it takes you to Germany for a race. Sean and his friend Jules have been working on a car to complete to see if they can win the race. You get little insights into their relationship, with banter back and forth, along with chatter about the Nazi party and the way everyone feels frightened about a war breaking out. It really adds to the sense of immersion when you know what really happens in history. During this section of the game, we're introduced to a few of the main players. Veronique is Jules' sister, Dierke is the main antagonist, a typical Aryan Nazi type, and Skylar is an old love interest of Sean. Also, while we're here, learning about characters, I couldn't help but notice that Sean loves one-liners. And like, they're not always that good. I imagine if he were my friend, I'd start to get very fucking irritated.
I see you're a man who'd rather die on his feet than live on his knees.
I'd rather the Krauts did the dying.
The truck is loaded and ready to roll.
And the Aurora? Trussed up tighter than a nun's arse.
Dierke isn't who you think he is.
Oh, he's not a motherless arse-faced knob jockey. Hope he's reading you your last rites, fucker. Those bastards should know better. Never steal an Irishman's girl. We can play any game you like when this is over.
Sean, is that you? What the hell are you doing?
Taking care of some unfinished business.
Sometimes racing is politics.
No, there is a difference.
You must forgive my ignorance, Herr Morini. We Germans are a simple people. Perhaps you would enlighten us further?
One's a hobby for rich assholes who can't get laid without a flashy car and a silly uniform. The other is racing.
Firstly, we're introduced to Dierke, who is coincidentally the guy you're racing, which spells trouble. You get into a punch-up in a bar, which teaches you the main melee combat mechanics, and like, it's fun. It's by no means the most complex system, but there's something about the sound effects mixed with the ragdoll physics that just makes fighting in this game so satisfying, especially when you're punching up a bar full of Nazis. It's fucking great shit. It almost feels like the game equivalent of a Tarantino film. After running away, this is where we meet Skylar. She's basically a walking pair of tits whose only state of being is constantly flirting. I kind of love her though, she's great.
Fuck me, Skylar?
Are you chatting me up? Hello, Sean. Hi, Jules.
Merde.
Which is another thing, all the characters in this game are so good, they have such charm, there's something about them which is just so compelling and unique. Even characters you meet just a few times, like this guy called Bishop, he's the head of an English spy agency, and he's just so mysterious, but he has no bearing on the main plot, but every single time you see him, he's so fucking enigmatic. I want to know more about Bishop. Who is this guy? What's the box he so desperately wants? That's one plotline we'll never know, and I need to know. Anyway, after meeting Skylar, you end up going to the race, and racing is a big part of this game, given Sean's backstory, and you have these optional races all over Paris, which unlock special cars for you to use in the open world. It's really great, and the driving mechanics are fun. Nothing super realistic, but like, better than GTA 4.
How driving works. Oh no. Yeah, I still hate this game.
So I'm aware I'm taking my time explaining this, but I want to tee up the story and then go over major points that I love. Long story short, Dierker, the Nazi bastard, cheats and shoots your tire out and wins the race. To get him back, Jules and Sean decide to steal his car and drive it into the river, which they do. But then they get captured by the Nazis and taken in for interrogation by none other than Dierker himself, who reveals he's a high-ranking Nazi official guy. Who would have guessed it? He believes Sean is a British spy, which, of course, he's not. Here we also see something that the game does a lot of, which is the CGI cutscenes. They look fucking gorgeous, and this is 2009. Every time we have a poignant moment, we get one of these beautiful looking CGI scenes, and it just adds to the whole feel of the game. I absolutely love it. After Dierker is sick of Sean's one-liners,
Go fuck yourself!
he murders Jules, and in that moment the colours are wiped and we see everything fade to black and white, and wow my god, watching this back it looks so cool. This game's artistic direction is phenomenal. Following this, we get Sean's escape and this wonderful set piece as the Nazis are invading Paris. The set pieces in this game are so well designed, from the atmosphere to the action and the music. It's absolutely superb, and it makes you feel so cool during these sequences. But that's basically the setup for the game. It's very well done, and it sets the tone, the backstory, introduces characters, and sets the stakes in a matter of 30 minutes to an hour, and boom, we're back in the open world. Sean has a vendetta against Dierker for killing his best friend, and the game is essentially a revenge story on the surface. And you're on board. After witnessing what we witnessed in the prologue, we're ready to take out this son of a bitch and help the people of Paris in the process. Now, being let loose into the open world is a great feeling in any game, and in this game it just has this playground feeling that not a lot of open world games have these days. There are a few core pillars of gameplay in this open world, and they all work together to provide a fun experience. First things first is your driving. You have a garage, and in that garage you can store cars. You find cars out in the world, you bring them back, and it allows you to collect them, and then you can use them whenever you want. Competing in races and completing challenges also nets you new cars, and so you can build up your collection of the fastest cars in the game. Oh, for I just can't ever escape it! Talking about Assassin's Creed, another of the core pillars of this game is climbing, and I mean full-on Assassin's Creed type climbing. Now, granted, it doesn't look entirely as good, but it works so well and it feels so good. You can climb everything in this game. If there's a handhold or a ledge, you can climb it. Can you climb the Eiffel Tower? Yes, you fucking can. You can also throw yourself from the top of the Eiffel Tower and land in a pond. A pond. And it's fucking awesome. The climbing really sets this apart from other open world driving games like Grand Theft Auto or Saints Row, allowing for this entirely different traversal mechanic to see the world from a different perspective, which I think is what makes this game so fun. This city really is your playground. Every building is important. It's not just there for scenery. You can roam around climbing these buildings, getting great views, killing Nazis, and it's just so fucking sick. I love it. The more and more I look at this game, it's almost like a modern day World War II Assassin's Creed game if it were to be made, in a way. You have the climbing, you have hide spots for when you're being chased by Nazis, you even have social stealth in a sense, because you can kill Nazis and then steal their clothes and sneak into enemy camps or territories wearing that disguise to kill Nazi targets or blow up installations, Hitman-esque. And that's another thing this game nails, is you can tackle things however you like. Guns blazing, stealth, disguised, climb over things and find another path. You basically just do things however you feel like it, and it's very liberating. The other core pillar is how you interact with the world. So you have these various Nazi outposts all over the world, from watchtowers to tanks being guarded, fuel depots, and whole Nazi stations, and you can choose to sneak in and blow these things up. You'll be rewarded with perks, weapons, contraband, which is the currency, or cars. And doing these things feels satisfying and rewarding, but at the same time, you also get this sense of liberating the people from the Nazis, and I like that a lot. I think this just adds to the immersion, which honestly this game does very well. You feel immersed in this world that's oppressed, and exploring that feels very fun. This game does a lot of little things right. One of those things is the radio. When you first switch on the radio in a car, it'll sound like it's coming through the radio, and slowly it'll transition to the song being played directly through the game. Really like that. It's just this slow transition to immerse you, and it's nice. Also, to add to the music, this soundtrack fucking bangs. It has so many amazing tunes that just add to this world and this time period, and not just that, but the story too. It feels like these songs were carefully handpicked to best represent this game. Also, talking about immersion, you can just smoke whenever you want. Just like clicking the left stick on a controller and you'll get out a cigarette and smoke. Although smoking is very bad, don't do it. It looks fucking cool. And the fact there's a whole button for it, you're winning, Pandemic. You're winning. The side missions in this game are really good quality too. Better than Assassin's Creed 2, which came out the same year. They aren't just things to do for the sake of it. They're actually little stories for side characters. Maybe people you've met before, maybe people you haven't, but you do a few missions for each, and there's plenty of them all over the world, and they're actually good and well made, and they have dialogue to tell a story. You can tell lots of work went into this game, and it's really fucking carefully put together. Obviously, another core pillar is the gunplay. There's a lot of guns in this thing. Pistols, machine guns, rifles, explosives, flamethrowers, shotguns. It's mad. There's so many, and you can choose which weapons fit your playstyle, and it's so freeing. And the gunplay works well. It's an old game, so it's nothing crazy. It's just cover and shoot, but it feels satisfying and it works well, so I'm not complaining. And of course, calling this the Saboteur would be silly if it wasn't relevant to the game. Sean is basically, for whatever reason, a demolition expert, and you carry around dynamite and other explosives, and you use those to destroy German outposts. So you aren't just shooting or throwing grenades, but actually sabotaging things from the inside, and I think that makes the content feel a lot more involved than it normally would do. Sean, over the course of this game, gets more and more involved with the Resistance, and so unlocks a lot more and more to do in terms of side content, your weaponry, the explosives you can use, and what you can actually destroy. And so Sean's arc and that of the main story directly complement gameplay, and when a game does that, you basically got me hooked. And along with that, we see major developments with the supporting cast. I don't want to spoil anything if I don't have to, but it's really well done, and it's so interesting to see everybody develop. This game is split into 3 acts, and of course over that time you get several incredible set pieces. There are 2 that stand out to me other than the final one. The first is when you get wind that Dierke is boarding a Zeppelin, which are just around. They're actual entities. You can shoot them down with anti-aircraft guns if you want, which is another cool little thing. But Sean infiltrates a Nazi outpost. You shoot your way through all these guards and you make your way to the landing point and board the Zeppelin. There you confront Dierke, and in the process accidentally set the Zeppelin on fire while it's in the air. You then chase Dierke through the fire and explosions, climbing using zip lines, and meanwhile this airship is coming down around you. Finally, you come face to face with him, and you have this amazing CGI cutscene between Sean and Dierke, which is their first encounter since Dierke killed Jules. And it's just such a poignant moment that solidifies this game is more than just blowing shit up for a laugh. You feel the emotion in this moment, and the set piece beforehand just adds to that, and also solidifies that Sean Devlin is a fucking badass, man. What a fucking guy. Another of the set pieces is when you find out that the Aurora, the car that was used at the start of the game, and the one that Sean and Jules both worked on together, is being kept in a Nazi base. You head in to take it back. Again, a great action moment shooting your way through, but the part that stands out to me is the fucking incredible music design. In this moment of seeing this important car again that contains a lot of emotional value for Sean, the action music shifts to an action version of the Saboteur main theme. Just listen.
Der Saboteur hat ausgespielt. Erwischt! Ich suche mir Deckung!
When this happened, I was in awe that this game that came out 10 years ago, that so many people miss, managed to do something that genuinely gave me shivers. I was blown away. The music in this game isn't just good from a radio standpoint, but also just in terms of ambience and the main theme of the game. It's just some of the best out there, and it encapsulates this world and this story, and the fact they subtly use the main theme in this particular moment was just incredible. Now, I want to talk about the ending of this game, because it's prime sequel bait. If you don't want spoilers and you'd rather play this for yourself, more power to you. I'll put a timestamp on screen. Skip to it now if you want to skip over this segment entirely, but don't forget to come back after playing and hear what I have to say. So this game reaches its climax when Sean heads back to the Doppelsieb factory to rescue a scientist who's been important to the overall story. This factory is where Jules died, and entering the room where it happened hits Sean hard. He actually blows up the room, which is classic Sean. But after this mission, you find out that Diego has taken refuge at top of the Eiffel Tower whilst trying to contain a city-wide revolt after Luke died, which was his plan. He became a martyr for the resistance, and it's very fitting for his character. This is a turning point for Sean. He realizes Veronique is the right person to take up the leader position as head of the resistance, and they share a nice moment together. They've had a few little moments throughout the story where you notice they might have more feelings for each other than they let on, which it's nice to see that come to a head. Following this, we get my favourite portion of this game. Sean heads towards the Eiffel Tower. There's wreckage of Zeppelins everywhere, dead bodies everywhere, and in the distance, through the smoke and fog, in this black and white environment, you hear the faint sound of a piano playing Nina Simone's Feeling Good. Now ignore that this song was released in 1965 and just pretend for a minute because it's so good I don't fucking care. Atmosphere, the vibe, everything in this scene is just stellar. As you get closer to the top of the Eiffel Tower, the music gets louder and louder, and you see people dead. You see officers taking their own lives. You see men hanged from the ceiling. It's fucking dark, man. And as you reach the top, you see Diego killing his own men and realize that he's truly lost it. Sean confronts him. It's this well-performed emotional moment where Sean comes to terms with what's happened and finally gets revenge. In Diego's last moments, too, they allow us to see humanity from this man who's done such awful things, showing that he knows what he's done and he knows it's wrong, and he's in sort of a panic. They didn't need to do that for his character, but they did, and for what little it does, I think it adds to this moment and to the character wonderfully. We then take control of Sean and finally shoot the Urker, sending him falling to his death, and a burst of colour floods from his body, filling Paris as you finally completed your mission and avenged Jules. It's poetic, it's artistic, it's beautiful. And as this game ends, we get this scene which is so bittersweet 10 years later, and we know it goes nowhere.
Is it over?
No, it's not over. I'm just getting started.
As the full version of Feeling Good plays, we're treated to the credits, and honestly, I felt such joy in this moment, and also the opposite too. Purely because we never got a sequel to this game. It was clear as day they wanted to make another and were setting it up, but thanks to EA, we never got to see it. And it's such a shame. The reception of this game was fairly average at the time. User scores tend to be higher on Metacritic, but it seems it's split. A lot of people didn't care for it at all, but the people who did absolutely adore it, the same as me. Reading through some of the reviews for this video really confused me. Did these people play the same thing that I did? Or did I simply see something that they didn't? 411 Mania, who, yeah, I don't know who that is either. This is 2009, so forgive it. Said, if you're a fan of GTA or Mercenaries 1 and 2, you'll probably get some enjoyment out of the Saboteur. But for everyone else, this game is a rental at best. And that fucking hurts. This game is not a rental at best. To me, this game is a masterpiece. A game that should be given more thought. The devs clearly had passion here and wanted to take it further, but never got the chance. It's sad to see that after mediocre reviews and very harsh words from critic companies that no longer exist, this game was forgotten. The studio was gone and EA seemed to brush it under the rug, which I guess is why nobody's played it. I was just lucky enough to get it for Christmas one year, and I'm so thankful that I did, because it's a game that clearly had thought put into it. It has artistic direction and story direction, it cares about its characters and its player, it gives gorgeous set pieces and beautiful world design. It's really unfortunate that this game got the short end of the stick. Talking sequels though, we never knew much, and it's clear the ending sets up a sequel, but in 2016, it was confirmed by Morgan Jaffit, I believe I'm saying that right, I may be saying it wrong though, don't worry about it, who worked at Pandemic's Brisbane office, which was shut down in early 2009. EA wanted him to work in the LA office as a creative director for the Saboteur 2, but by the year's end, the LA studio was also shut down, and subsequently, Pandemic was dissolved. So we don't know how far into development the sequel was, but clearly far enough that they hired a creative director and had him working on it for the best part of 2009, the same year the original launched. Sadly, the original hardly did well enough for EA to take the rights and get another studio to work on a sequel. It's been 10 years and it's not a popular IP enough so that it'd sell. It'd be too big of a risk, I suppose, and we know how much EA don't like taking risks. All in all, the Saboteur is a bittersweet experience. Playing through it, I absolutely loved every second. The world, the characters, the music, the atmosphere, the action movie-styled missions. There's something about it that just fucking gets me, and I love it. The attention to detail, the music design, the gorgeous artistic direction, every single piece of this game's narrative, gameplay, and art style work together harmoniously to create what I would define as a masterpiece. It's not objectively perfect, it's janky in some areas, it's aged a bit, but as it stands, everything they tried to do, all the decisions, all the creativity, separates this game from almost everything I've played. It's unique, it's special, and it's a damn shame we'll never see Sean Devlin again. Also, if you punch cows enough times, they explode into slabs of meat, and whoever did this, thank you so much. This is amazing. Thank you so much for watching this video. I absolutely love making these big projects, and they take me so long to make. If you want to help support me in making more of these, don't forget to, of course, subscribe, like, all that support helps. But if you want to go that little bit further, go and check out patreon.com/as always. It helps so much in financing these videos so I can spend longer on making them, and so I'm not rushing to get something out, because I desperately want to make more of these. They're so much fun, and I think they're so interesting to do. So if you want to help me out, those are the few ways that you can do so. I really do hope that you enjoyed. I really had a blast making this video. Thank you to our Patreon producers, King Richard III, Smexy Dork, Elsterco91, and Seth. You're all fucking amazing, along with everybody else over there. Really helps me out. Anyway, thanks so much for joining. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.